I'm giving away this fantasy-themed mystery box. It contains merchandise from The Witcher, Game of Thrones, The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings. I'll even be throwing in this Magic the Gathering Lord of the Rings starter kit. So if you want to get your hands on it, stick around to the end of the video to know how. Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny is somehow entertaining yet boring at the same time. It walks the line of interest in what's going to happen next and doesn't even matter at this point. It's an alternating series of frustrating choices, promising beats and goodwill for a legendary actor donning one of the most famous hats in movie history yet again. Yes, it could have been better, but it could have been a lot worse. In an era of extreme online critical opinion, The Dial of Destiny is a hard movie to hate, which is nice. It's also an Indiana Jones movie that's difficult to truly love, which is a little sad. The unsettling mix of good and bad starts with the first sequence. A flashback to the final days of World War II that features Indy and a colleague, Basil Shaw, trying to reclaim some sort of historical artifact stolen by the fleeing Nazis. Jones looks normal, of course, but Ford here is a figure of de-aged CGI that never looked quite human. He doesn't move or even sound quite right. It's the first but not the last time in Dial of Destiny that feels like you can't really get your hands on what you're watching. It sets up the standard of overused effects that are the film's greatest flaw. We're watching Indiana Jones at the end of World War II, but the effects are more distracting instead of enchanting. It's a shame because the structure of the prologue is solid. Indy escapes the capture of the Nazis, but the important introduction here is that of Nazi astrophysicist named Jürgen Woller, who discovers that while looking for something called the Lance of Longinus, the Nazis have stumbled upon half of the Archimedes dial, based on the real ancient Greek item that could reportedly predict astronomical positions for decades. The dial is given the magical Indy franchise treatment as Woller says it makes the owner a god. After a cleverly staged sequence involving anti-aircraft fire and dozens of dead Nazis, the Dial of Destiny jumps to 1969. An elderly Indiana Jones is retiring from Hunter College, unsure of what comes next because he's separated from Marion after the death of their son. The best thing about the Dial of Destiny starts here in the emotional undercurrents in Harrison Ford's performance. He could have lazily walked through playing Indy again, but he very cleverly asked where would this man be emotionally at this point in his life. Ford's dramatic choices, especially in the back half of this film, can be remarkable, reminding us how good he can actually be with the right material. His work here truly made me hope that he gets a brilliant drama again in his career, the kind he made more often in the 80s. But before he can start his retirement, Indy is rushed off on an adventure with Helena Shaw, the daughter of Basil and goddaughter to Indy. It turns out Basil became obsessed with the dial after their encounter with it a quarter of a century ago. And Indy told him he would destroy the half of the destiny that they found. And of course, Indiana Jones doesn't destroy historical artifacts. As they're getting the dial from the storeroom, they are attacked by Woller and his goons, leading to a horse chase through the subway during a parade. It's a cluttered, awkward action sequence with power that's purely nostalgic. An iconic hero riding a horse through a parade getting thrown for someone else. Before you know it, everyone's in Tangier where Helena wants to sell her half of the dial, and the film introduces the final major character into this action with a sidekick named Teddy. From here, the Dial of Destiny becomes a traditional indie chase movie, with Jones and his team trying to stay ahead of the bad guys while leading them to what they are trying to uncover. James Mangold has delivered on the old man hero antics, but he gets lost on the journey here. He's unable to stage action sequences in the way that's nowhere near as engaging how Steven Spielberg does it. Yes, we're in a different era, CGI is more prevalent, but that doesn't excuse clunky, awkward action choreography. Look at films like John Wick Chapter 4, even with CGI enhancements, you know where the characters are at all times and what they're trying to accomplish and what stands in their way. The basic action structure often falls apart in this film. There's a car chase scene through Tangier that's incredibly frustrating. A blur of activity should work on paper, but this has no weight and no real stakes. A later scene in a shipwreck that should be claustrophobic is clunky in terms of basic composition. I know not everyone can be Spielberg, but the simple framing action sequences in Raiders of the Lost Ark is completely gone here. It's replaced by sequences that cost so much that they somehow elevated the budget to $300 million. The Dial of Destiny works so much better when it's less worried about spending that massive budget. When Indy and Helena get to the actual treasure hunting and John Williams' all-timer theme kicks in again, the movie clicks. And without spoilers, it ends with a series of events and ideas that I wish had been established long before we got to this point in the film. Ultimately, the Dial of Destiny is about a man who wants to control history being prevented by a man who wants to appreciate it, but has arguably allowed himself to get stuck in it through regret. But there's a powerful emotional centre here, but it comes too late to have an impact. If only they wrote a stronger script. I feel the script was sanded down so many times by producers and rewrites that it lost some of the rough edges that it needed to work. Spielberg reportedly gave Mangold some advice when he passed the whip to the director, telling him, and I quote, "It's a movie that's a trailer from the beginning to the end, always be moving. Sure, trailers are rarely boring, but they are never as entertaining as a great movie. But that's just my thoughts and feelings about the film. If you've seen it, I'd love to know what you thought about it in the comments below. And if you want to win this fantasy-themed mystery box, all you need to do are these 3 simple things. Leave a like on this video, comment on any of my videos, and subscribe to my channel, and one lucky random subscriber will be announced on the 31st of July. You can even hit that bell icon to keep up to date with my latest uploads and giveaways, such as my comic book giveaways every fortnight. And lastly, before I go, I just want to say a big thank you for watching. Make sure you smash that like button so it can get recommended to other people. So with all of that being said, I will see you in the next one, but until then, take care.